It's 8:50 this morning. This week on Garda Síochána, with ambassadors from all around Ireland, have launched the hashtag Slow Down campaign. This Garda initiative is to encourage all motorists to slow down on our roads. As of June 21st, 82 people have been killed on our roads so far this year, a stark and worrying figure. The aim of this campaign is to encourage all road users to modify their behaviour on our roads and to encourage all age groups to think about road safety and how they can influence the behaviour of others. In recent years, Ireland has reduced road deaths through a collective effort, and we all have a role to play in saving lives. You can follow on Garda Síochána's Facebook page at Garda Traffic, it's at Garda Traffic on Twitter and Garda Insta on Instagram this week to help share this vital message. And the hashtag is Slow Down. Joining us to talk more about this campaign is Tipperary's own Padraic Maher. Padraic, good morning to you. How are you getting on?
I'm good, lads, and yourselves?
Yeah, campaigns like this, having somebody to come out and talk about it who actually understands what it means on a day-to-day basis, like yourself, it's really important. When you get asked to do something like this, are you absolutely happy to lean into it and say, yeah, I'm happy to be the face of this? We should all be slowing down on the roads.
Yeah, definitely, Ger. Obviously, it's part of my job day in, day out, dealing with incidents like this, unfortunately. But yeah, look, it's vital. And look, Garda Síochána don't just pull these campaigns, out of the sky willy-nilly. There's stats behind these reasons why they are. And unfortunately, there's been 83 this year so far, and we're only coming to the end of June. That's way too many for any given year, never mind for 6 months. So, yeah, it's very important, I suppose everyone in the community, all our friends, our family, our colleagues are aware, and, keep in mind that, it is a big need for us all just to slow down. Speed limits are there for the reason, Ger, and I know we all kind of give out about them at times, and you might have your friend or that giving out that they were caught with a speed van or something, but they're there for a reason and they're saving lives every day in, day out. So, yeah, it is vital that we're all aware of this campaign, and I suppose I just urge everyone to be aware of it and pass the word around. And we've all seen it in social media the last few days, so hopefully everyone's becoming more aware.
The thing about road traffic accidents is that for most people it's an item on the news bulletin, or it's on your Google Maps telling you it flashes red because there's been an accident, and so therefore try and avoid the area. For you guys, who it is part of your day-to-day job, you actually go to the scene of the accident and you see the devastation for the people who get killed, but also for those people who survive and have life-changing injuries.
Yeah, it's not, I suppose, until thankfully everyone doesn't have to deal with it too much, but we see it day in, day out, as you were saying, Ger, and it's not nice when you're going meeting families, of people that are being injured or even killed in accidents, and it's just not a nice place to be, and it's not a nice situation for a family to be put in, or a friend to be put in. We've had colleagues being in the same incident, so I suppose it's not till then that it really opens your eyes and how much it hits someone, and it's just very important that something simple like for us all just to slow down, be aware of our behaviour on the roads, slowing down with speed limits, mobile phone use in the car, all them small things can make a big difference, to all our lives. And yeah, exactly. Once we see it firsthand, it really opens your eyes to the hurt and devastation it can cause.
Yeah.
So it's very important that we can keep the collisions down if we can at all as a community.
I was driving home yesterday from the Irish Open, and there was an item on the news about a coroner hearing in Donegal town about an accident that had happened in Bundoran, and just the details of it. They were travelling at 121 kilometres an hour, and I looked around me and there was loads of people travelling around that same pace. I can tell you I slowed down straight away. Immediately I was like, okay, there's literally no point in this. I think sometimes we're a bit reluctant to talk about just how horrific the outcomes will be, and the difference that 40 kilometres an hour makes between 80 and 120, or between 80 and 40 kilometres an hour in the right zones. And actually, I don't know, maybe people just tune out. Maybe it just becomes noise in the background, road deaths and how we report on them and how we talk about them. But I think it's really important that, the first-hand accounts that you guys give of that devastation, of knocking on somebody's door and telling them that their loved one has passed away in a car accident, that maybe if we do a bit more of this, it might help people slow down.
Yeah, you'll be hoping that's the reason why the campaign is there, and making everyone aware. And look, I suppose if you just talk to someone who is, being on the receiving end of bad news in relation to someone, a friend or a colleague or a family member being involved in an accident, who has been seriously injured or tragically killed. You know, it's not nice. And like, you know, speed limits are there for the reason. No matter if you're going through a 60-kilometre zone and you're going 70 kilometres through it, it's 60 kilometres for a reason. And look, I've been through accidents over the years through my work that, you know, you've been speaking with, you know, traffic collision investigators and, you know, and things like that. And they'd be saying that, you know, 10 kilometres can make such a difference to either, you know, saving a person's life or someone getting tragically killed, you know. So, look, you just hope everyone become aware this week of the reasons why An Garda Síochána are, I suppose, driving this campaign this week. You know, 83 people in 6 months is too many people, like, and you know, hopefully we can bring them numbers down majorly over the next couple of weeks and months.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's your day job. The reason that everybody knows you in Ireland is because you were one of the best hurlers of your generation. How are you finding no longer identifying as an intercounty hurler? What's that whole period been like for you to get back into civilian life?
Yeah, it's been strange, Ger, to be honest with you. I suppose I'm getting used to it a bit now, just trying to fill the void of, I suppose, that routine I had for so long, you know, being involved in a high performance setup with Tipperary, you know. So yeah, it's strange, but look, I'm getting to do a lot of other things in my life now, and I'm enjoying going to all the matches. I've been to so many games this year, with Tip not even being involved, you know. So it's great to be able to go and to sit back and relax and actually watch the games and, I suppose, analyse them and try and understand what other teams do be getting up to. So I'm really enjoying it, and yeah, looking forward to the weekend's games now again myself.
Are you going to those games as a potential future coach or potential future manager? Is that in your head? Are you going just as a hurling fan? How have you settled in? How would you classify yourself when you're there in the stands?
Yeah, look, I suppose I'd be going. I prefer if Tipperary were there, Ger, to be honest with you, to go support them. But unfortunately, that's not working out this year. But no, definitely as a hurling fan, and you're number one. But as I said there, look, you'd be looking kind of with a kind of a coach's hat on in a way to see what teams are getting up to, how they're setting up, you know, matchups, you know, how players are, how we'll say if Kilkenny are going to do with Tony Kelly, etc. So look, it's intriguing that kind of way, and I suppose I'm only out of the scene, so I have some sort of understanding of what way teams will go about it. So it's kind of interesting for me to go and analyse it in that certain way. But yeah, mostly just being a hurling fan and being able to go to these games with no pressure and being able to go and enjoy them and watch them. You know, it's a different experience, but it's one I'm enjoying.
Did you get to the Tipperary games this year, and did you enjoy them?
I did, Owen. Yeah, I got to them. To be honest with you, I didn't enjoy many of them. To be honest with you, I went down to the first one, Blow Walsh Park, and you know, it was actually tough to watch it for myself because it was to really hit me that day, the first time that I wasn't really involved watching the lads run out on the pitch that day. But I suppose the ball was turned in, and you know, my brother playing, and that's so my thoughts and feelings kind of turned straight away into be a supporter and try and support lads as best I could. And unfortunately, I went to the rest of the games this year, and it didn't turn out great for us. But yeah, disappointing year from a Tipperary perspective, to be sure. Yeah, hopefully there's a lot of learnings for a few people in it now, to be honest with you.
Are you quiet in the stands? Are you shouting? Or how does that work? Are you like, oh look, I've been out there, I don't want anybody shouting? Or are you like screaming and yelling and roaring?
Yeah, I suppose I'd be kind of trying to support him from a point of view that I know what the players are going through and what they're dealing with, whether things are going good or not going so good. So but I do find myself I'll be jumping off the seat a good bit, all right, and you know, some players can probably do better, and you're probably, you know, trying to encourage them to do that bit better. But
I'd say they still recognise your voice as well. They're like, hang on a second, what's going on? Where did that come from?
Oh, I don't know that, but they're probably saying, what's that Egypt doing here now? One of those again. I thought he was gone, but but yeah, no, it's a surreal experience this year, to be honest with you. And look, I was talking to Ken McGrath a few months ago when I retired, and he said to me, once you get the first year out of the way, the rest will be, everything else will be fine. You'll be like any normal supporter. So hopefully he's right.
Does sound like you're interested in management, though.
Yeah, maybe so. It's like I suppose I'm just helping out my club at home there now at the moment, and just to get a taste for it and see, do I enjoy it? And maybe it's not something I might enjoy, or you know, already I see there's so much work involved in being involved in a management team, even with just the club. So we'll see how it goes this year, and we'll go from there. But yeah, look, as I said, you're just, I suppose it's naturally in me to go and watch these games I suppose, just to see what way teams are setting up and how they're going about their business, you know.
We were just chatting before you came on air about the semi-finals this weekend, and I'd say the Galway camp internally completely does not reflect the conversation that's happening around the country this week, which seems to be how many points are Limerick going to win by. Just from your own experience, like, I mean, you beat Limerick in 2019 at the end of the round robin before losing the Munster final, and then last year obviously you had a good old lead against them at half time, didn't get the job done in the end. There was, I guess, an element of that your tip team that knew what to do at least against Limerick. So what can Galway do this weekend when you take your own experiences into it?
Yeah, I suppose they're coming off, they beat him below in the Gaelic grounds at the start of the year in the league, and everyone was kind of vying him up to be this, you know, the physicality of Galway will match and possibly beat Limerick. Like personally myself, I find it so hard to find a way of, or a reason why Galway are going to win the game, to be honest with you. I just think the big thing for Limerick was to get through that Munster Championship. There was a few games there which would have been tricky for them, and they were coming off, I suppose, a reasonably poor league campaign by their standards. But they passed that Munster Championship with flying colours, and I just can't see them. You know, I think 2019 against Kilkenny is going to be ringing in their ear for the last few weeks since the Munster final of when they slipped up against Kilkenny and got caught in that semi-final. I just think that that's going to stand to them this year. They have a lot of the same players involved, and I just don't see a form coming from Galway from the last few games. I thought they got very lucky against Cork to come through. Cork didn't take all their chances, but in saying that, then lads, as a player, then you'd love to be in the Galway dressing room all the same, because you're coming in, there's no one giving you a chance. You know, it's backs against the wall. You're against the All-Ireland champions, and you've beaten them already this year in the league, so you know you have a way of beating them. You know you have the players that can beat them. It's just a matter of getting the performance out of them, but they're all going to have to give unbelievable man-of-the-match performances, I feel, for them to get over the line.
What is that way? Like, what does a Galway win look like in your head if it happens this weekend?
Well, I think Galway, looking through Henry, since Henry's taken over, you know, they're all big physical men, and they'll all match the Limerick lads probably in height and weight and strength and things like that. It's just a matter of trying to put the bodies back into the middle zone of the pitch, I think, where Limerick do a lot of their damage and turnovers and things like that. I think Galway are going to have to use their physicality there a lot, win that middle third of the pitch. You know, you see Cotton Mannion going back down the pitch, turning over ball in his own half back line. You know, Joe Cooney's back there. You know, Conor Cooney moving back and just getting the ball into, hopefully, Conor Whelan inside, who could do the damage. But he's going to need support. You know, there's a lot of pressure being on his shoulders the last, you know, just definitely this year and the last couple of years for Galway, especially with Joe gone. So you just need to give him, I suppose, get the bodies behind the ball, turn it over, but also get support into Conor Whelan as quick as they can, because we know Limerick are not going to move too much. They're going to hold their shape as best they can. So they're going to need support for Conor Whelan. But it's going to be a massively physical game in the middle third, I think, lads. And it's just whoever will come out on top of that, you know, will win the game, obviously. But yeah, Galway are going to need to have all guns firing on Sunday, I feel, to get over the line.
When you think back to that Munster final and the second half performance of Limerick in particular, like, everybody talks about the All-Ireland final being their signature performance, but they were so good in that second half against you guys. What was the difference between the first and the second half now in retrospect? Is there anything you can pinpoint and go, okay, they did something slightly different that caused us, I don't know, whatever, we couldn't respond, that gave them the space? Or was it just like a masterpiece from Limerick?
I think structurally in the second half, they were definitely more stable at their back and midfield. I thought their midfielders sat out a bit. So they invited us to, I suppose, their forwards were putting enough pressure on our backs and midfielders to hit the ball longer to them. So they were just soaking up the pressure, and then they were able to deliver a good ball into their forwards. And they got an early goal, and momentum just shifted. You could feel it in the stadium that day, lads. And you know, when the Limerick support get behind them and the energy gets into their team, you know, it was just like a tidal wave coming towards us, and we just couldn't stop it, to be honest with you. And you know, we had great movement in our far lane in the first half. We were dragging Limerick all over the pitch. We probably took them out of their comfort zone a small bit. We were getting the ball in over their half back line and making them turn in towards their own goal. But in the second half, we were just any ball we were getting down to was landing under half back line, and that's what they love in Limerick. And the energy just changed in the game, and they just forced us, and score by score, they had it back in the space of 15 minutes, which was incredible. And from our point of view, it was very disappointing. But that's what this team can do to you, and they seem to be getting even better year on year.
We had Callaghan on last week, and I asked him the same question. If you could go back now into that dressing room at half time, knowing what's coming, could you do anything to stop it?
Yeah, I suppose it was enough experience from us we had on the pitch that day, Ger, to you'd imagine that we should have, but they just came with such energy, and as I said, you could feel the shift in momentum. Like one of us should have went down with an injury, or as I often said to the lads after, one of us even should have started a shemazel or a bit of a row just to break momentum after the first few minutes, because it happened so quickly. They were getting points. They got the goal. Straight away it was just like, lads, someone just do something to stop momentum here, or even we should have brought our own team back out the field towards our own backline. But I suppose it's championship hurling, and it's hot and heavy, and to make these decisions it needs a lot of communication, and we were just overawed by the second half performance really, and it just especially Keane Lynch took control of that game for them. And I suppose that's in a game like that, that's why the Munster final was so important, win for Clare, because they had no Keane Lynch, but he was the go-to man that day against us, and he just single-handedly kind of dragged them back into that game.
I have a feeling in retrospect, when this Limerick era passes and when they're all retired, that game is going to end up being one of those really important hinge points, because of what happened in the first half, where you guys gave one of your best performances of 35 minutes, but it turns out you did it against one of the greatest teams of all time. So it's probably zero consolation to you guys that you were all on the field when this thing happened. But when you think back against the battles that you had and your team had with the greatest Kilkenny team that there has been, they define that rivalry, and this Limerick team hasn't had a great rival to go toe-to-toe with them just yet, but in that one game we saw absolutely everything from them. So I don't know, there'll be books written about that. There'll be a 30 for 30 made about that game, I think.
Yeah, unfortunately you could be right, but as you said there, this Limerick team hasn't really had a team to constantly knock on their door and test them. You could say Clare this year, all right, they've played 3 games, and they haven't beaten Clare over 70 minutes into 3 games. So, maybe Clare are coming with something, but to be interesting, Clare have a big game to get over the first on Saturday before they can even think about playing possibly Limerick in the final. So, in fairness to Clare, this year have been putting up to Limerick toe-to-toe. To be very interesting if 2 met in the final now, what way it will go after the final.
I appreciate this is a cheap question, but was it easier to play against that great Kilkenny team or easier to play against this great Limerick team?
Jesus. To be honest, I suppose I've said a few times that I always enjoyed playing against that Kilkenny team. There was no real, I wouldn't say tactics, but there was no, it was like you were going out taking on your man, and it's man on man, and you have to beat your man, and it was fairly straightforward. You were either up to the task or you weren't. And I thoroughly enjoyed them games over the years. Anytime we played Kilkenny, they were all fantastic games and great to be involved in. And I suppose Limerick is a bit different. I suppose the game has changed. I suppose towards the latter few years there, especially in my career, that Limerick probably have their own kind of way of playing, style of play. They kind of suck you into their own way of playing, which is, I suppose, what every team finds hard to go against, but they do. They're very good at it. And like I said before, if I was playing full back for Tipperary 10 years ago, it was 3-3 inside in the full back line. Now against Limerick, you could be doing 1-on-1 or 2-on-2, and there's loads of space around you. So if I had to answer your question, I prefer to play against the old Kilkenny team.
Very good. Just one last thing I wanted to ask about, Paddy, is just like Ger was making the point earlier that maybe when you look at the odds for this weekend, that it's only a 6 points between Limerick and Galway, according to the bookies, that they're possibly factoring into the occasion that there could be a wild sending off this weekend. And these sort of moments can hinge on things that happen in a split second, as we saw in the 2019 All-Ireland final for sure as well. I just wanted to ask you about the art of shouldering right now in hurling, the impact of landing a big shoulder on somebody, that momentum shifter, and just how difficult it is to nail it right now? Because we obviously saw it in the quarter-final. Dahi Burke on Seamus Harnedy, that big hit. When people slowed it down, people said, look, that was shoulder to head, and maybe a different referee sends him off. Even though live watching it, I thought, wow, what an unbelievable shoulder that is. So how heightened is that experience right now, trying to nail shouldering when you're trying to put an impact or put a marker down on an opponent?
Yeah, look, to be honest with you, it's kind of dying out of the game, isn't it? Because, like, why would a player put himself in that position of probably getting, you can't say probably getting sent off, because if you don't meet him shoulder and shoulder, now I thought Dahi Burke's was a brilliant shoulder, to be honest with you. I know slowing down these things probably make them look a bit worse than what they are, but like, you're putting yourself in a position, you're jeopardising your team by getting sent off. And unfortunately, I feel it should be part of the game, but the way the rules are going now, if you anything near the head or the neck area and you're in trouble, and we've seen it in the football last weekend. I know the shoulder probably timed a bit wrong, but you're putting your team and yourself in a lot of trouble if you do go in with a tackle like that. So unfortunately, it probably is dying out of the game, but it is a very difficult skill to probably nail as well, shoulder and shoulder, when everything is going 100 miles an hour around you. And I know people often refer to my shoulder against Joe Canning a few years ago, but like, if that happened now, I'm putting myself and my team in massive jeopardy of me getting sent off and the team going on to 14 players. And that's just the way the rules are gone, unfortunately. And I know it's in the greater scheme of things, it's to look after players and their health. But I think, there are certain ones like the Dahi Burke shoulder. I think, because Seamus Harnedy bounced back up off the ground straight away. There was no issue there. A lot of the players are strength conditioned to top quality now. But unfortunately, the way the rules are, I'd say these tackles aren't even being attempted really that much anymore, because, there is a fair chance that you could receive a red card for your actions.
So if you rewound the clocks to that moment with Joe Canning and put it into today's conditions with refereeing and rules, would you pull out of that shoulder or just not go for it, or tackle him in a different way?
I say that when you're playing on Arsenal, you find it in front of 6,000 and the energy is going, and you it's very hard to make split decisions like that. But definitely, I suppose now that was 6 years ago. Now I suppose 2022, you would have to think about what way you are approaching the tackle. Maybe you might just have to stand face to face and try and hold them up or something. But as I said, it's literally millimeters of the difference of you getting a red card or being a fantastic tackle. And as I said, I don't think players are going to take that chance. The way the rules and the way the games are being officiated now.
Can he practice it?
Well,
I don't think it's something you can really practice. Like, usually you tackling like that, you practicing off tackle bags or something training. But I don't think it's something you can really. You might get away in training because obviously, training games might be refereed obviously by the coach or whatever, and he's going to be a bit more lenient. But like, as I said, I don't think it's something. Like, I think Dahi Burke just timed it pretty much nearly perfect, I think. But again, if he was a second early or second late there, he was busted and Galway were in trouble. So I don't think it's something. I think it's something that has to naturally happen, or you just have to have a good timing of it really as a defender, or even if it's a forward in the back.
Because we were saying at the weekend, Eoin was at the game and wasn't sure exactly in the stadium whether or not the red was justified. On TV, when they slowed it down from a different angle, you can see that it probably did deserve a red card. I think the referee made the decision, or certainly had confidence in making the decision, because there was blood drawn. And if you go back to you both ended up being blood subbed. Is that right? Both yourself and Canning ended up getting blood substitutions.
That's right. Yeah, I think I definitely went off the blood sub anyway. I split my head, but yeah, the football game the weekend. Like, it's be interesting. If there was no blood, would there be no card? That's the thing. Did the referee work off it was my first reaction to George, to be honest, when he seen the blood and the Galway player jogging off to be treated. Maybe that made his decision up for him. I don't know, but I think he was justified then when the camera slowed down the tackle. But again, if he was, he'd probably took a couple of seconds too early, the Armagh player. If he was a couple of seconds later, it could have been a perfect shoulder to shoulder, So
yeah.
Again.
And did you guys clash heads? Is that where the blood came from?
Well, something of his head. I'd say his shoulder went into his head. Was it? I don't know. I'm not too sure now. But again, then you know, when you see blood in the head area, well, obviously, you know, you're not supposed to be tackling someone's head, obviously. So he was hitting the head and he shouldn't have been. So I think the referee was justified with his card.
Yeah, no, fair enough. It's very, because it's so high risk at this stage where the referee's making a split decision and the crowd are absolutely baying, in this case metaphorically and literally, for blood. So look, Paulie, great stuff. Thanks a million for joining us. Enjoy the games at the weekend. Who are you calling in the Clare-Kilkenny game?
Jesus, I tell you, if you were giving me a 20 euro bet now, Ger, I'd be picking a draw on Saturday's game, and I'd go for Limerick by 7 to 9 point win on Sunday.
And who wins the penalty shootout then?
Oh God, can we go to replay now?
Apparently not.
Oh God, and I don't agree with that anyway.
Right.
Jeez.
Well, we'll leave you on the fence for that one then, Paulie. Good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us this morning. Cheers.
Cheers, lads. Thanks.
That's Padraic Maher there. A reminder this week on Garda Síochána, with ambassadors from all around Ireland, have launched the hashtag Slowdown campaign. This Garda initiative is to encourage all motorists to slow down on our roads. Follow the hashtag Slowdown across on Garda Síochána's social channels to help support the campaign.